Hey, I am here to talk to you about a very interesting topic today, something that you probably have thought about at night or when you're alone, but it is what is your greatest fear? I'm going to share my greatest fear with you. And it's so interesting. As you grow older, your fears change, what you're afraid of. When I was a kid, I was afraid of something very simple, something very physical. I was afraid of snakes. Snakes just creep me out, and I would have a fear of maybe a snake coming at me at night, and so I would get spooked out. I'm still a little bit creeped out by snakes, but I understand that I could, uh, with exposure therapy and with some training, I understand that I could probably get over that and get around that. But there are deeper psychological fears that I now understand as I've grown a little bit older. I understand that there are things that trigger us. We have traumas, and I read this book by Rhonda Britton called Fearless Living. It's probably given me the deepest insight into fears and how they impact our lives. So she talks about two things: either having a wheel of freedom where you spiral up when you just are in flow and things are rolling off your back and you're just kind of in flow, like you say the right thing to your mate, you're happy. I am very much in my wheel of freedom when we are on vacation. I don't have any pressure, no stress. Everybody's being nice to me and things are just working out. I know how to make decisions. I am a fantastic person to go on vacation with. If you ever want to go on vacation with me, I would love it. But at home with stress and pressures, I get triggered and sometimes I run on my wheel of fear. For me, my deepest fears, what triggers me and absolutely sets me off is when I feel unloved, worthless, stupid, rejected. Those are huge trigger words for me. Now, some people believe that we just have one core thing that can really set us off into our wheel of fear. I don't know about that. I I think any of those things really sets me off. But for me, that feeling of being unloved, when somebody thinks the worst of me, when I am connected to somebody and I have to work with this person and I am just constantly being put down, that's a huge fear that I have, and I'm talking kind of on a subconscious level because I don't lay awake at night dreaming about this. I'll get into that in a second, but this is more of a something that I start reacting. They say when you get really scared, you end up in that fight or flight or freeze tendency, and that's what happens with me when I feel unloved, when I'm starting to get pressured, when somebody starting to I'm feeling worthless because of things that are being said, allowing myself to get triggered, then I absolutely jump into this. I want to fight, or I want to curl up in a ball and cry. It's also these fears of not being able to be there, at crucial moments. My parents are getting older, and if something were to happen to my parents and I weren't able to be by their side, I mean, that freaks me out. It freaks me out that I'm missing the best things in my life right now. I just turned 40. I'm afraid that these next 10 years, things aren't going to work out. That's when I get on my wheel of fear. I start to feel like I'm worthless. Things aren't going to happen for me. Nothing's going to turn up for me in the next 10 years. My life's going to be miserable for the next 10 years. This tough situation that I'm going through right now doesn't have meaning, and I'm going to keep going through it. It's this rumination, this negative rumination is what pulls me down into a wheel of fear. When I'm in a wheel of fear, I am no fun to be around. It's just a day to day miserable thing that my wife has to put up with, and she hates it, even though sometimes she's in her wheel of fear at the same time and kind of triggering me. We're just triggering back and forth and spiraling down and down and down. What gets me out of that is God, just God and the human spirit is what I'll call it. I mentioned this in my last video, but in his book Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl talks about how nobody wants to suffer. Nobody wants to have to go through these trials in life. But knowing that when we do go through trials, that we have a chance to be a version of ourselves that we would not otherwise have had. So being able to suffer and know that my suffering has a meaning, and to understand that whatever's happening is being allowed by God and he is good and he will make reparations. He's a God who doesn't have us serve him out of nothing, but he is somebody who gives back. And I know that my life does have meaning. I know that things will be taken care of. Over and over in the scriptures, it's talked about, God provides for two little birds. Won't he provide for us? We have value. The widow's mite, he says, she put in more than everybody else. God notices the poor and the lowly. And there's so many examples where God notices us. He tells husbands that we need to provide for families. Somebody who doesn't provide for their family is considered worse than a person without faith. So he says, how much more so will he provide for those who are part of his family? Those things get me out of my fear, my hope for a future. If I miss an event, if I am absent, if I mess up, which kind of goes into the idea of being a perfectionist, which I have, I have those fears as well of messing up and not being enough in the moment. But even if I mess up, I know that I have a long time. I have an eternity to make amends, to correct the situation, to be the kind of person that I really want to be. So interested to hear what your fears are. You can post them below. I'd love to hear something that you're afraid of. Also, let me know what you think about this content. It's to me an interesting way of looking at fear and also trying to get out of fear. Instead of spiraling down, try to spiral up. And also check out that book, Fearless Living by Rhonda. It's really an amazing book. All right. Have a fantastic day. And remember to rise and thrive.